Hi everyone. So I was thinking, uh, I was thinking about a disc aircraft, what people would consider an alien spacecraft, or not spacecraft, yeah, spacecraft or aircraft. Um, and I could see it in my mind how it could function and actually work. And basically, you have it'll be like a helicopter, a helicopter, however you pronounce it. And then, basically, um, basically, the propellers, the the little wind turbine things, or the turbine thing on the top, instead of being on the top, it'll actually it'll actually be at the very bottom, and the engine will be above it, and above that will be a walking area. And I think I drew it out, and I don't know what I did with the drawing. Although in my drawing, I put these wings on the outside of it so people could understand a little bit. But on the top, it'll be a floor, like an office. And like a helicopter, it has the two little things at the bottom, the legs. So when it lands, it'll just land on that, and then the other side, right? So with this idea, it could have the same type of thing all the way around. That, or it could have legs that come out. So they'll come out from the flat of the disc down to the ground. And then this could be a tire. So it could have 6 to 8 tires that come out of the aircraft. And I do not know how big a helicopter is in scale unless I do a search and look into the graphs, like look into some graphs or something. But this aircraft can be easily the size of like 4 houses, um, if not the size of a house. But that's kind of small because it's like a re-entry disc that NASA uses from space to Earth so it could land on the water. So the heaviness will keep it somewhat stabilized to prevent it from blowing when the winds hit it. You know, it'll stay like this. Plus, if you think about a disc, the air dynamics are going to go around and over, around and over. Then I seen the control panel, but not in actuality, but in my mind and how it will work. Basically, the way that it will work is the pilot or pilots will have a window. Actually, the whole thing could be windows, but there's going to be at least 180 view or less than that of where the pilot can actually look straight on when they sit down, so they could actually drive it straight forward if they wanted to, especially in emergency cases, since this aircraft will have the capabilities or capability of maneuvering at any direction, up, down, sideways, instantly, without having to turn at all. Just like a helicopter, but the helicopters have the tail, so the tail prevented from doing some maneuvering, probably. So there's a bug in that. So in order to bypass this, the tail will obviously, it basically is redesigning it and eliminating the tail. So imagine with technology, the aircraft, this is state of the art type of shit. So the aircraft will have cameras all around it, on the bottom, the top. So in the display panel, it will have basically a map of the whole area where this aircraft is, the surrounding area on the control panel. And if the pilot wants to turn at any direction, then I'm assuming that the pilot will have a visual of wherever they're trying to go without actually looking in that direction. They could be looking, say there's north and south, east and west, the compass. So they could be facing north, but they want to go, east, but that is a blind spot. They can't see that. They don't know what the heck's going on. Or even the south part and the back of them, they can't see that because they're looking north. And this is a huge aircraft. There's walls everywhere. So the the display panel will basically display all this information for them to be able to ride it like a kind of like a drone or like a joystick type of thing, where if you think about a drone and someone operating it on the ground, then basically that's what will happen. The operator, but in this case I'm calling it the pilot, will basically have the same control as someone on the ground on a joystick, and being able to go up and down and move around like if they were able to see everything. But in reality, they wouldn't, because if you look at a drone, it's so small. But imagine you scaling that up the size of a house or two houses, three or four houses. It'll, you would have to be inside of that. It's like being inside a bedroom or a living room or something like that. So you would definitely need a lot of cameras and a bunch of shit to be able to, move this thing and operate it correctly and professionally and all that. So it's all digital shit. Um, it's not, it won't be a toy. And it could have, it could have, just about anything really, but as far as weapons, but that's only like if it's necessary. But in this case, it's not. It would just be, um, I guess, for fast maneuvering. And if when they want to land the damn thing, then basically they will be relying on the cameras, the digital cameras, and maybe even maps, the terrain maps and all that. And then like in the movies, they'll basically have a stairway so people can go up and down. uh or maybe it could have, because where the bottom will have a casing that will cover the propeller thing, so no one will even be able to see it. It will just be a disc, a smooth disc. And so maybe I'm thinking the legs could actually bend down, if, or even drop or something like that. Um, but it would definitely throw a lot of dust and stuff all around it, as it lands. And even when it's there, like there, that even after it has landed, just like a helicopter, but the wings will be probably lower to the ground. If, but I guess it already, it's all a like a variable, like a it's all optional on the pilot, if how far they want it to go down or up, or if they just wanted to keep, or if they just want to keep it at one height, a fixed height, then that's up to the manufacturers and whoever wants to design this thing and make it work. But yeah, that was basically it. Um, so basically, the way that it'll go up and down fast is weight, gravity, and thrust. So if you want to drop down, 200 feet, then basically it'll be the weight of the aircraft that will drop it drastically. and then thrust to get it up to that level quickly, and then it having the ability to go, any direction freely, free motion basically. And with the self stabilizers, it will stay stabilized so people can walk around freely, and also um uh um so they'll be able to walk freely with the stabilizers. And then there's also a a a way to keep an aircraft at a certain elevation. So if the pilot wanted to do that, then that aircraft could stay at one elevation at all times, and they'll like a helicopter at hovering. And and instead of having two sides, this can be like a window to all the sides, therefore maximizing the potential of this aircraft, especially to the U.S. military, or to basically to all the countries that would like to make it. It'll be a one deadly machine. And I mean, if you think about it, some military helicopters have machine guns on both ends, but with this thing, it could have six or eight of them. It would have to be basically it's two. I don't know if that's odd or even, but you have 2, 4, 6, 8, because it's this perfect circle. So you could have gunners at it, spaced out evenly around the whole aircraft. So therefore, you will have more accuracy at taking your targets down, whether the machine moves or not. Especially with technology in mind, because the whatever each target is looking at, it could be alterated, it could be moved and shifted, and especially in their goggles, and then they'll have a different target, but they'll be able to detect that target easily and start shooting at that, and that'll go for every other gunner. But that's only if that's what this aircraft you know was built for, or will be built for. So those kind of things will be implemented for those reasons. But if it's like a civilian type of aircraft, then obviously none of those things would need to be added whatsoever. Obviously, right? So yeah, that was basically it. I honestly would like to build something like this and to be a part of that. It's kind of like yeah, a helicopter. And then you have a regular airplane. with the propeller in the front. Basically, is just driving that machine, that object forwards. That's all it does. A helicopter lifts it up or down. This thing will be the same thing, but it will be like lifted like a helicopter from the bottom up. And then the thing about a helicopter as well is if it turns like this at an angle. But I don't think that it doesn't necessarily have to. I think a helicopter. I think it could be just rotated like that. But I'm assuming that it will have the top rotator, and then the tail would probably have a separate engine with a smaller propeller, so it could drive the tail, basically around 360 or whatever. But with this idea, um, it like I said, it could go up or drop, and then it could go any direction without it, doing all this. So that's the main thing, is getting it to the elevation you want, or down, whatever. Yeah, whatever elevation, and then it can move freely, and yeah, fast. It wouldn't matter. And basically, what would happen is on the screen, the views would just alternate, and then the pilot would know exactly where this aircraft is located at all times. And then with the technology, um, basically the pilots will know what's around them, if there's other flying objects or not. The terrain, Google Maps, all that shit will basically be implemented in this aircraft. So now with all this technology and stuff, it's really not that difficult to understand. Now, if all this internet stuff were to be like a failure for the aircraft in mid-flight, then that's when the pilot will take control and be able to see, the 180 view, 160, 130, or even 90-degree view. But then the pilot being able to, look down to land this object, that would have to be thought of, and other safety rules and regulations, and probably even procedures that I'm not even aware of would have to be thought of and brainstormed by professionals for the safety of the crew or those on board on the aircraft. And then like safety, emergency landings, that type of thing would have to be thought of and brainstormed, for it to really work effectively. So yeah. Now, like, if it was used as a weapon of war and it malfunctioned, which is a possibility, then I guess the crew could always jump out with fucking parachutes and shit. But this thing's gonna be super, super fast. I'm thinking faster than an airplane. And it will have, yeah, because it will have, like, free movability or whatever. Because speed is not a factor. We have that already. That thing could drop and be, it could go up like nothing with thrust and all that. That's not a problem. That's nothing to worry about. And even missiles like can be all around the disc thing. I was thinking it's kind of like a a segue self balancing thing when it if a torpedo if all the torpedoes have been used but then there's one torpedo in the machine, there could be a rotating disc at the very top. So if it's pointed on the, say, east side of the aircraft and the pilot wants it on the west side, the opposite side of the compass, then the disc can turn without disturbing the crew and without it, so basically be a self rotating, not self but rotating disc at the top that can be operated, probably even manually, um, by the click of the pilot. So that maybe that's all it would take is just a click, and it will be it will be programmed already to be able to turn around and throw the missile out right where the pilot wants. So the pilot wants it in any direction, all the pilot would have to do is push the button, and that missile will self align and shoot right at the target. As opposed to an airplane, the airplane has to basically get alongside or straight with the target, um, or it would have to shoot it out and then it would have to turn or something like that. But this will always be like ready, you know? And it's perfect because it's a fucking circle. It's not this weird fucking object up there. I guess it could have a center exit and entryway by creating an empty space at the center of it and then having the rotor around that empty space so that cargo and people can go up and down from that section. But if I guess it all depends on the designer and the type of propeller that people want to use and want to install in these type of aircrafts. Because if it's not a possibility, then obviously there wouldn't be an empty space there for anything to go in or through it or out of it. So then that's when like the entryway would have to be like on one of the sides of the aircraft. But I guess um, if if people want to drop out of the aircraft, especially like kind of you think about skydiving, the aircraft will be up on the in the sky, and people will be able to jump out if they wanted to for emergency exits, as an emergency exit. Um, because if I'm thinking if the some people are in a certain area, I don't know. Um, I don't know. I'm just gonna stop here, end this video, and I guess if you think about it, on the top floor, I guess it could have multiple fucking floors. Now that I think about it, so it could be like a building, two. It could have two buildings, two stories, but I'm thinking the windows could have some type of wipers to clean them, um, without any of the crew members having to go out and cleaning it, for just so they could have something to look at when this thing is in mid-flight. If it hit fucking bugs or whatever, it could be self-cleanable. So all these things